ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Walking with J.Beau. Today I am wearing the camera on my head, so there will be no selfie view, which may make people very happy. It's about 32 degrees today, which feels warm compared to how it's been. It's going to be cold again tomorrow. We're expecting 3 inches of snow tonight, overnight, into the morning. It's going to be rather blustery tomorrow. So I'll probably have another shooting day canceled for range day. But that's okay. So anyway, I think this is my 6th walk of the month for January. I believe tomorrow is February 1st, or February if you want to say it properly. So this helicopter crash into a jetliner in Washington, D.C. is a really terrible thing that happened. Really horrible. And 2 out of the 3 people on board the helicopter have been identified. The co-pilot's name was Eves, his name was. And the pilot's name was Ryan O'Hara. The guy Eves, I forgot his first name. My apologies to friends and family of said Mr. Eves, who has passed away. They are still looking for the 3rd person in the helicopter whose body has not been found yet. I do know that with military helicopters, they do train in the event of crashing in water. Thanks. They do have training that they do if their helicopter crashes in water, but I don't think there's very much you can do in 7 or 8 feet of water, which is what the depth of that water was, because the helicopter, when it lands in water, flips upside down because of the weight of the rotors and all that, and the motor. It does what a toy submarine would do. If you taped lead weights to the top of it and then let it go in the tub, it would flip upside down. So that's what happened with that. And I'm not even sure 8 feet of water was enough for it to completely roll over, because it looked like in the photos I saw that it did not. So they train how to get out so they don't drown. But we don't know how much damage was done to the helicopter on impact either. So don't really know anything right now, which is why people should stop spreading rumors. Perfect example of that would be that it was being reported that the pilot was a transgender woman. The military does have trans women that pilot Black Hawks. And it's like they really wanted that story to be true so bad, they tried to make it true. And I think whoever started that rumor should get sued for defamation, because I'm sure it caused a problem for this person that was named as the pilot who wasn't the pilot. And we know this because she uploaded a video on Facebook saying that she was not the one piloting the helicopter, and she was alive and well, and that it was unfortunate that people chose that moment to politicize a tragedy. Now, that being said, she absolutely hates Trump and Trumpers, and it would not surprise me at all if an ambulance chasing lawyer contacted her to file a lawsuit against whoever started that. Every time we get one of these bad events, we get terrible news coverage. Perfect example, I'm watching this NBC correspondent. NBC, I want to be clear, it was NBC. This woman was broadcasting from the scene as ambulances were rushing by. She said her source on the ground, another correspondent that works for NBC, told her that survivors were found and that they were being transported to a helipad about a quarter-mile away to be treated. And that's where those ambulances were going. Completely false. Had no idea why she said that, where she got the info, but the post that showed that was taken down not long after. But somebody already grabbed it, and it went around all over the internet that there were survivors. A couple of other news outlets reported survivors, but the scanner talk is what they were listening to. And the person on the scanner said 3 people were found. So he didn't specify that they were alive or not. The media assumed it was, and they reported it as such, irresponsibly, which is something the media never would have done 20 years ago. So they're all trying to be first with stories because of all the competition, ad dollars, ad revenue, and at the end of the day, people get angry at the media, as well as they should, and don't rely on them for anything, which I don't. In fact, when that trans story came out, I was emphatic about it online, and even got people angry with me saying I was defending trans people. I said, no, this isn't confirmed. Pretty simple, really. Okay. So the story was not confirmed. There's really no reason to state something as fact when you really don't know and you're just assuming it is. Just like that brings me to another point, that I am completely against all of this transgenderism. Transgender ideology needs to be removed from our schools and society, but live and let live. People can be what they want to be. Don't force it on other people, and don't indoctrinate children. And to some extent, stop indoctrinating adults as well. So, as we watch the cars coming, make sure I don't get hit. Not exactly the time of year people expect somebody to be walking on the side of the road. So anyway, that being said, I have no animus towards trans people, gay, lesbian, whatever else. So I want to be clear on that. It seems a lot of conservatives, in their eagerness to discredit DEI, as soon as they heard it was a military Black Hawk helicopter, people started looking for that. Rather than being worried about the people that got killed, that was made the priority by many internet engagement farmers, I'll call them, who try to get a viral post going, which is something I like that X has done, where they have this thing called community notes. Trusted people verify posts, and then you have a footnote added to your post, basically saying your post is bullshit and here's why, with a link to the actual information. So they are very indiscriminate and bipartisan. They have tagged Kamala Harris, President Biden, many prominent conservatives as well. So that's a good thing to have. So they do have that footnoted today, that it was not a trans pilot. And every time we get a mass shooting now, conservatives try to find out if the person doing it was trans. Now, the flip side to this is trans people have not done anything really to help themselves with this. Instead, they're just making people angry with this trans ideology, instead of just being a basic, old-fashioned, mind-your-own-business transsexual. They have to shove it down everybody's throat, force ideologies, cancel you if you disagree, and that is starting to go away. So the rumor being spread was because of Trump's transgender executive order that he signed last week, that this trans person was upset she was getting kicked out of the military, and she was going to take the helicopter on purpose and kill everybody on the plane because she hates Trump. That was the narrative people were trying to push. Because, number one, the person they said was flying it does in fact passionately hate Donald Trump. So it was an easy sale to eager buyers. Now, that being said, to clarify on Trump's executive order on that, the Pentagon has been given 60 days to come up with a medical treatment plan that works for the military and trans people that are in the military. No new trans recruits will be taken. And if they are taken, they're not going to get treatment in the military. This does not fire trans people from the military. So if you are listening and you are a conservative and you believe that trans people are being fired and removed from the military, that is false. So, current ones will be allowed to stay. They may get transferred to different positions. Basically, when you join the military, you belong to the military. They'll do with you what they wish, as long as it's not discriminatory or otherwise. So, if the Pentagon deems that trans people are not fit for active duty and combat duty, they will be assigned somewhere else. Be it a desk job, motor pool, something. As I'm walking here, we have deer tracks in the snow. That's pretty cool. And so anyway, a big brouhaha came about that. And what it's detrimental to is I have just spent a half an hour talking about it and not the people that were killed. So now I'm going to do that. Unfortunately, I think it's about 18 U.S. skating juniors, skaters, who basically were going to be future Olympians in the Olympics, we're going to be competing in figure skating. Included boys, girls, and a lot of their parents were on the plane with them. And they're all dead. So my thoughts, heart, and prayer go out to the family and the people that were killed. And we need to show them the utmost respect by talking about them instead of conservative internet rumor. Hello. It's a happy dog. You can always tell when the dogs are happy. You watch the tail. That comes from a lot of experience from walking. That was just a puppy. So anyway, I guess the point I'm making is it was a terrible tragedy, and I did listen to the audio, finally, the complete audio from what happened with the crash. I believe on the last walk I took, this had not happened yet. So if you're new to walking with me, you know that I trust but verify. If it's a news source I trust, I go out of my way to verify it. That's how I found out the NBC report was false. Not that I trusted them, but some people online did. And I did some fact checking. And the most accurate reporters from that was actually Fox News, which sometimes they get things wrong. So everybody is in a rush to get their stuff out on the internet where it can generate ad dollars, money. Because more people watch web streaming and all that stuff than they watch TV. That is the new frontier. And so anyway, that's the story with that. And I listened to the controller, traffic controller, and the traffic controller was not very alarmed. So I think some of the fault, I'll wait till these people go by, these kids. All right. He's carrying all this snow home.
Oh, yes.
So these people in the control tower, which I guess was one person doing multitasking because of staffing shortages, which the left is trying to blame on Trump. I'll get into that in a minute. So we see some crappy weather here. So anyway, the deal with that is there has been a staffing problem with the airline industry since Trump has come out of office. Trump reversed Biden reversed Trump's executive order. To be clear, that Trump wanted the entire aviation industry redone, and I'm sure everybody remembers him talking about it. He talked about airports being third world countries and we're using inferior equipment. We need all the newest, modern, safest equipment. That was never done. Biden cut the budget and spent the money on revamping current equipment, which basically just means ordering new parts, replacing things, maintenance. So this stuff never got done. They also remained short-handed. That's awfully black smoke coming out of that chimney. That's peculiar. You seeing that? That is damn peculiar. Black smoke should not be coming out of the chimney like that. That person has a furnace problem, which I wonder if they're aware of it. Makes me wonder what the hell they're burning in there. Maybe they found something cheap to burn. That is very peculiar. Well, it's one of those things where do you go knock on somebody's door and make sure they're okay on the chance you're just going to annoy them? Are they even home? It smells oily, so anyway, gosh, I really hope I don't read about that later. That definitely should not be doing that. If there's thick, continuous smoke coming from a furnace, which is not now because the furnace turned off, there is a problem with the furnace. Having to do with combustion or a clogged nozzle. It should be checked out because it's not safe. Knock on the door. All right, so I did my good deed for the day. So anyway, you heard what that guy said on there. I'm not going to show the video of me talking with him because I would have to blur his face, because I did not ask him if it was okay to use it, so I won't. But you're hearing me say it now. I can tell you that we saw the black smoke. He's aware of it. He said the landlord had been over earlier that day and changed an oil filter and replaced a nozzle. And so basically his furnace is running rich, like it would if you were behind a car where black smoke was coming out of the tailpipe. That means it's burning gas rich. So anyway, he was very thankful about that, which is nice. And so I hope hope he gets that problem fixed. So anyway, further on down the road we go. Hope everybody's enjoying their day. So I did my good deed for the day. You know, the problem I had is I didn't know if anybody was home, for one thing, in that guy's house. And if a furnace is doing that, you don't want to have somebody come back home and, you know, find their pets dead, and either from carbon monoxide or a fire broke out, which would be terrible. So I did the right thing. I took the chance of somebody being annoyed. And you know, that's the thing with people today. I could have very well have knocked on his door and he could have been hostile and said, stop bothering me. So a lot of people are like that. But this is a Trump neighborhood, and people are not lunatics and angry all the time. So anyway, hopefully now we got some kind of equipment up there with their lights on. Huh. Well, I don't know what's going on. I'd like to imagine that maybe somebody called the fire department, but I didn't hear any sirens or anything. But that might be a fire marshal inspector, seeing if that furnace is safe. The guy in that house said the landlord came over to fix it himself instead of hiring somebody, and he tried to tell, and he actually was going to get he didn't want to get charged an emergency fee. I guess the landlord didn't. So that's just cheap. And but that's what people do. So anyway, I did my good deed. So anyway, as far as the victims of the crash, we were talking about the Washington D.C. crash. The Black Hawk helicopter hit the bottom side of the airliner. The main problem, from what I've noticed from all the information we have now, and the military is at fault. I don't think this was intentional. One of the pilots in the helicopter had over 1,000 hours of experience. This might not sound like that much on paper, but most helicopter flights are 2 hours or less. So when you get 1,000 hours, you're pretty experienced at that point. And I guess he was instructing somebody else who had 500 flight hours. And they were training. I don't have all the details on what they were training, but I do know from Fox News they said night vision and night training was what they were doing. And the likelihood that the pilots were wearing night vision, which by the way would have illuminated everything in the city and washed out your vision, because the city at night is very bright through night vision. You would not see the lights on an airplane immediately or safely. So chances are they were not doing that, because that's common sense. But we will get the information from the investigation, and I do trust that Pete Hegseth will get us the correct information without any cover-ups. At least that's the rumor, because he's got integrity and cares about the men and women in service, and fixing a problem would lend towards doing that. So, with that being said, we have this kind of situation where Trump came out and said this was a DEI issue because he has common sense. Personally, I don't think he should have done that. And the reason why I say that is there was no way to verify it. And that's not something Trump usually does. He's usually always right. And he may still be with this one. He may be talking about the air traffic controllers. and DEI problems having to do with staffing. So that's a pretty dog. It's a pretty dog. I bet they don't like the salt in the paws, huh? I bet they don't like the salt in the paws, huh? Probably not. Anyway, I think Trump was actually referencing the DEI problem in America in general, saying that the reason why they were understaffed in the aviation industry is because of DEI policies, and people quit and go work somewhere else. So I think that is what he was talking about. That's why they are understaffed, and that creates a safety problem. That's the same problem they had in the military for the same reasons. Lest we forget, recruitment was at an all-time low because people don't want to join and be forced to get vaccinated and have to deal with weirdos in the military, and you have to put your life on the line with some of these people. When you watch their videos on the internet, don't seem like serious people about being in the military. So I think that's what he was loosely referencing, and I think he does this on purpose. I think he plans this because he knows the media is going to run away with it only to be proven right. So I think that might be one of those instances that we're watching. Call it 3D chess, 4D chess, whatever you want to call it. Trump is very good at that. So they fall for it every time too. So with that being said, I think we're going to get the answers, and I think that's what it's going to be. I think the workers there were overworked. I think it's going to be revealed that they had staffing shortages created by DEI problems. And so I think that's where that's going to go. And Fox News was reporting today, I didn't get a chance to read into it too much, but Fox News was reporting that there were 2 other close calls with military helicopters at that same airport recently, where the planes were averted to avoid the helicopters. That was being reported today, so I haven't verified that yet. And I'm sure that will be looked into. I think that was one of those police cars we just saw with the flashing taillights around the corner. That police car that just turned. I think somebody saw the same thing I did, and they called the fire department or 911 or something. So you people that live down south, if you see anybody, and the rarity that you guys do run furnaces, if you see black smoke coming out of their furnace, steady and strong, it is having a combustion problem, which can turn into a fire problem. So that needs to be taken care of. Anyway, with that, this accident was really terrible that it happened in Washington, D.C. And from all the information that I have garnered, it looks to me like the helicopter pilots, for some reason, thought a different airplane was the one that the tower was asking them if they could see. Because they acknowledged that they did visually identify. They had a visual ident on the airplane the tower was telling them to watch out for. And then they struck another airplane. It is also a very busy airport. Yep, I can hear a fire truck horn. Yep, somebody call the fire department and the police to that location, because that because the landlord there wanted to be cheap. Isn't that terrible? So anyway, you know, which makes me thankful that we own our own house. So anything like that happens, it's on us to fix it. But anyway, terrible accident that happened. Obviously, there was human error involved. I think it may have been understaffing at the air traffic controller's place, because to be honest with you, listening to the playback of the call, any air traffic controller can instruct the military helicopter to just stop and wait a minute. It's a helicopter, okay? They can stop in mid-flight, in mid-air, and just hover. Would he have had enough time to do that? I don't know anything about helicopters. I'm sure there's a gradual distance to stop. But it is a military helicopter with capabilities. It is a 40-year-old helicopter, and they've been in service for a long time. And as they stated by a Black Hawk pilot that I was watching, he said, if you look up while you're in the helicopter, you cannot see above you. You just can't. The window isn't made that way. You don't have windows above you. And somebody dropped something off their vehicle. I'm gonna go take that out of the road so nobody does run over it. I guess it's Good Deed Friday, right? It's a lid to a pot, and that fell off somebody's vehicle. So we'll put that right there. Maybe they'll come back and get it. So we'll cross back over this way. Somebody ran over that, they would have known it, let me tell you. So anyway, try not to get hit by this car. So anyway, the helicopter hits the bottom side of the plane. I guess that's been confirmed now. And very unfortunate. I guess out of the 67 people, 64 were on the plane, 3 were on the helicopter. And they've recovered, I think, 28 or 29 people. Pretty sad. And anyway, really tragic day. The pilot of the plane did absolutely nothing wrong at all. Was in communication with the tower. Everything was all clear, everything was good. No problems. So they end up getting hit by a military helicopter where there have been 2 previous close calls at that same airport recently. But anyway, everybody needs to take really good care not to spread false rumors on the internet, and to speak up when somebody is, even if you get guff for it, because now I am more respected because it turned out what I said was true, that it was a false report. And You know, the way things are on the internet, you got to be really careful. Everybody wanted this to be a psychotic trans person so bad, ending themselves and taking people with them, that you know, by the way, if you have self-harm thoughts, call for help. You can call 911. There's also a suicide hotline, which I don't know the number because I'm not depressed and I don't need anything like that. So I don't have it memorized, sorry. But just go into a web browser and just type in suicide helpline and you'll get the information you need. But anyway, people wanted it to be that so bad. The flip side I was talking about before we saw the furnace burning was people are very upset at the transgender ideology movement for said reasons of forcing it on people, forced compliance, cancel culture, getting fired from your job because you know something's wrong and you say something is not right in this country. I don't care what they do in Europe. We're not in Europe. This is America, and they have gotten a lot of backlash and they have hurt their own cause dramatically with this. All of these children that have been transitioned and put on puberty blockers, now you are getting reports, and I am going to risk getting a strike on my channel, but I am reporting factual information, and hopefully the algorithm would know that. The health department in Australia announced today they're going to do a 10-month pause on puberty blocker usage, which is exactly what they did in the UK. I think they want to ban it immediately, but they can't politically because of the said trans right leftist lunatics who won't allow them to do that. So he was basing it on medical science reports that it may not be safe for this kind of usage and being improperly done by the Cairns Clinic, C-A-I-R-N-S, I believe I read in the Newsweek article. That they are being investigated for improprieties. They didn't really specify what those improprieties were, but it had to do with basically prescribing large amounts of these drugs to people that probably should not have them. So that would tell me they have activists in their clinic, because that's what they do in these wildly progressive far left countries is, and this ties in with the DEI stuff that Trump is talking about. And DEI policy is fine on its face, and in theory it should be an acceptable good thing to do. But what it really is you're hiring people that aren't qualified for the job because of who they are or what their skin color is. And the people that are more qualified are not hired. That waters down your talent pool to make people happy and feel good, which in a lot of these industries puts lives at risk and also harms children. We have a lot of DEI activist doctors and psychologists. We have a doctor here in Maine who is a transsexual. I'm not going to use the transgender word because that was a word invented by the left based on one person's medical report that he did, and they use it because it gives them their genders. So instead of 2 genders, they can have 73 like they do now. So you have to have that word in there, gender. So they changed the dictionary definition as well. Right. So they changed the dictionary definition of transsexual to transgender, and then they added a footnote to transgender saying using the word transsexual is derogatory, which it is not. It is a medical term. So that is propaganda by academia, who are the chief violators of DEI policies and practices and promoters of wokeism. So these psychologists basically rubber stamp people that say they want to be a boy and they're a girl, or they want to be a girl and they are a boy. So they rubber stamp and approve everybody when they shouldn't, mentally. Right? So that's what they're doing, and they are hurting minors. Minors are children. So when somebody says to you that minors are not surgically mutilated, they're lying to you, for one thing, because they don't want to admit that their ideology is insane, which it is. But minors most certainly are being surgically mutilated. And there's no reason for a healthy teenage girl to have her breast removed because somebody told her that while she was having self-harm issues, which is an issue that needs to be dealt with, but not through that. That they made that decision for her, convinced her she would be happy if she did that. It's barbaric, it's cruel, and it needs to be illegal. And the rest of the world is finally figuring that out. I can tell you right now that this transgender ideology and gender ideology in the United States is on its last legs. It's never going to be heard from again. And what did I say 2 years ago on my walks? Someday this is going to come back to bite Democrats because it just is inherently insane and not what they should be doing. They thought it was helping them win elections, and it turns out it's not. It's helping them lose elections. So now, like I said 2 years ago, the Democrats are going to turn their backs on these young people that they talked into this. Now, all of these people that they talked into this are going to require lifelong medical care, okay? That's code words for they're not going to be able to afford it, and they are going to need insurance and money to do that, because at the time they did it, they used federal dollars for affirmative care, which I have a feeling is going away very quickly, and they're not going to have that anymore. So I don't know if they are going to phase out like the military is, which would be the humane thing to do, is to continue paying for the people that have already done it and then refuse to pay for any new ones. Because you know, a lot of these kids, it's not their fault. They trusted the adults. It's the adults' fault, and we need to remember that, okay? So when somebody transitioned at 15 and they are now 21, 22, 23, and they're all messed up, and they won't have a way to pay for it, I think is the obligation, since this is the mess we created, to at least have some financial responsibility, and we can blame the Democrats. Sounds good to me. We'll actually be the humanitarians. Maybe Republicans should say, you know what, we already have this problem, all these kids are messed up, I think we should take care of them, but this needs to be made illegal, pass legislation to do that. I think the American public right now would accept that, and I think that would be a win for Republicans. Because guess what Pete Buttigieg did? Pete Buttigieg from the White House, previous White House administration, on his social media accounts, he has removed his pronouns. Something that was an absolute cardinal sin previously and would get him canceled and protested against. So it looks like the fad is wearing off, folks. It got crushed under its own weight of stupidity and ignorance, both, because many of these Democrats knew that it was stupid and they did it anyway. That is the definition of stupidity. Ignorance is not knowing better and doing something wrong, and usually not the fault of the person. They just didn't know. So we had a lot of very ignorant parents and children because they were misinformed by people promoting woke activists, trans rights activists in positions of power, told them this is what they should do so their child won't die. These people need to be held accountable. If there's any legal recourse against them, which there probably isn't, unfortunately, that should be used. But I would like to see massive lawsuits filed for damages. Sue the federal government too, since they promoted it. And you know, that's just the way that goes. But most of us, many years ago, when they started, quote, going after the kids, unquote, we knew this would come back on them. That was the taboo they should not have crossed. And it started with sexualizing children for pride, gay pride parades and stuff like that. Probably when I noticed it most, 2018, when Trump was president. And you know, a lot of these people in the LGBT community do not support this woke stuff, okay? So don't think all of these people they're all in cahoots, because they're not. In fact, a lot of them are the ones making a difference in ending this, because many lesbians have children. Many gay men have children. They don't want their children screwed up by the system either, and they're speaking up to protect their children. It's just not a good thing to be doing to children. So anyway, hope I'm not boring you with this conversation, but it needs to be had. And we need to clean up DEI policies out of the military, out of our transportation safety boards, out of every facet of society, and award people on merit. If some guy wants to be a woman, goes through that whole process, he or she should not be denied obtaining any tier in any company or a local municipality, but it has to be based on merit and capability to do the job. I saw a video recently of this female cadet. She had a full rucksack. I think it weighs like 7,500 pounds. So you're carrying 100 pounds beside yourself, and you have to either run or hike something like 20 miles. I think it's 20 miles, carrying an extra 100 pounds in full army gear, helmet, jacket, everything, okay? And you have to do this even if it's hot or if it's cold. So this woman is carrying this full rucksack, which to me looked almost as tall as she was, because she was tiny. And she was at the last few feet before the finish line, and she kept collapsing in exhaustion, putting down the butt of her rifle to lift herself up, and she kept on going, and she crossed the line. I don't think I would have crossed the line. I probably would have collapsed and stayed there and been laughed at by everybody and failed what I was supposed to do. Even at 20 years old. But I don't know at what point and how much physical training she had before that point, I guess is what I'm saying. But if somebody had trained and had stamina, they should be able to do that. A young man, 20 years old. So anyway, she wouldn't quit. And I was impressed by her ability to force herself back up and continue, despite being so exhausted that she was almost passing out. And to the point where she looked so exhausted that she could actually physically expire, as in not be living anymore. She kept going. She would not quit. And she crossed. So that should count for something. But here's the thing. If you are deployed in Afghanistan and you are with your deployment and you need to hike 20 miles to go save some lives, you best have somebody that's capable of doing that. And if you don't, they don't belong in that doing that. Okay? That should be common sense. So despite her grit and determination, she was just simply physically lacking to have that job. Okay? That's all they're saying. And when you award that to her because she's a woman or she's a lesbian or whatever she is, you are harming the military. So it's not discrimination. It's not anything. It's based on merit. Merit. Can you do the job? If you can't, then you can't. And that's just a simple fact. For the longest time, police departments nationwide had a height requirement. I think the height requirement was 5'10" or something like that. Now they don't. So now we have to watch these videos of both men and women on the internet doing traffic stops, wrestling with an assailant who is 6'4", 240 pounds, and you get this 5'6" woman getting her ass kicked and killed. And I have seen 5'6", 5'8" male officers get their ass kicked and killed because they shouldn't be doing that. Physically, they're just in diminutive stature to be doing that job, okay? That's it. It had nothing to do with somebody being a woman or a man or anything. Even when we were kids, guess what? If you're not tall enough to get on the ride at the fairgrounds, then you can't get on the ride because you could get killed. So when did that change? When did it get to the point where, oh, okay, well, that's a trans kid. Even though they're short, they should be able to get on the ride. When did we get to that? I already know the answer, and so do you. Obama. This is all Obama progressive far left lunacy. Okay? If you want to amuse yourself, go back to 1995. It's available on YouTube. Just type in State of the Union Address 1995. And Bill Clinton was the president. This is about the time where Democrats sounded like today's Republicans. And I was a Democrat at the time. Bill Clinton, who I voted for, by the way, don't throw rotten tomatoes at me, was up there saying that we need to close our border. These migrants are taking jobs from American citizens that want to work. They're losing their jobs, and these illegals are underselling local small business with illegal wages, which are less than minimum wage, and they don't pay taxes on it. This is all the same stuff Republicans are saying today that Democrats used to have the sanity and the cojones to say. So, if you watch Bill Clinton at that State of the Union, there's a section in there where he's talking about closing the border and deporting the illegals that are here. And this is about the same time they passed Joe Biden's strict law enforcement bill of locking up people that sell drugs, do drugs, saying that if you're in possession of crack cocaine, you should go to jail for 20, 30 years with no exceptions. Which the irony of that is there was video on Hunter's laptop of Hunter Biden smoking crack cocaine. And we all know that the law does not apply to Democrats. So, Democrats are in fact above the law. As evidenced by Joe Biden pardoning his family and everybody else that was corrupt and stole our money. So, that is also official. The Democrats can no longer say that nobody is above the law. So, they're losing everything that they've been promoting, and they deserve it. They deserve it. They deserve it. So anyway, boy, that's an interesting talk today. This is all stuff that needs to be discussed. So anyway, we have trying to establish public trust back in our government is one of Trump's main objectives right now. And so that's what they're going to try to do. Right now, people don't trust anything. Now they don't trust flying. You see what happens here? This is, this needs to be fixed. And you can't do it overnight, which goes back to the other part I wanted to discuss, where I was talking about how the left is trying to blame Trump for this air disaster, saying that the control tower was understaffed, blaming it on Trump's policies that he has, where Trump has only been president for what, 10 days? I don't think he's really done anything yet with the aviation industry. I know the head of the aviation resigned because of pressure from Elon Musk, but that doesn't affect safety and everything else, because what I was saying is there's no government agency that doesn't have an assistant director, assistant deputy, assistant this, assistant that. Then they have their own assistants. Somebody would be in charge, okay? So they're just making excuses because they hate Trump. They're looking for any little thing to blame Trump for. So, in fact, Jake Tapper last night was trying to do that. I saw a clip on the internet from a segment from his show. I don't watch Jake Tapper. I don't watch CNN. I don't watch Fox News, and I don't watch MSNBC, but I do watch these people when an emergency happens, because they do have people on the scene very quickly, especially in Washington, D.C. I had all kinds of different things to watch, and basically you have to watch them without believing what they're telling you, because a lot of times it's just not true. Right? So we watched that, And I got my information from it, formed my own opinion. And I think what's going to happen after it's investigated is I don't think you're going to find anybody under the influence of drugs. I don't think you're going to find that this was a suicide taking people with them. I don't think you're going to find anything unusual. I think it's just going to come down to, and this has been established, I was talking about it earlier and I didn't get to it, I'm sorry, that the helicopter was flying at the same level as the airplane. And this had happened twice before. And without incident until this time. So the military helicopters are supposed to be 200 feet above the ground or less. In the airline industry, they cannot go below 400 feet. So that is specifically in the rule book, so something like this can't happen. If you have a helicopter at 200 feet and you have an airplane at 400 feet, even if their pathways intersected, they are not going to collide with each other. It'll be a close call, but they're not going to have a collision. So Trump was right with that aspect. He said this is common sense. The military helicopter is not supposed to be under 400 feet, and they at 400 feet, and they were. So common sense would tell you that's probably the first biggest mistake that was made. I think the pilot of the helicopter, because it's a busy airport, you have planes taking off and landing at the same time, because it's a very busy airport, that the tower asked him if he had visual on the airplane and to get behind it so he wouldn't hit it. He acknowledged that. I think he was looking at the other plane that had already gone by him, and he was like, well, I'm already behind this plane, so what's he talking about? And he kept going. The traffic controller instruction should have been halt in your current position. In other words, the helicopter should have stopped because the controller didn't know what was going on. And even when you listen to the call, the transcript and the recording, you can tell that the controller seems to be unsure of what's happening. So the first thing he should have done was just, you can't tell an airplane to stop in flight, so he should have told the helicopter. It should have been in his head that it was a helicopter and they can stop if they want to. And he should have just told them to hold, stop. And that would have avoided this as well. Hello. That's weird. She's walking with open toe shoes. Open toe sandals, okay? Did you see that? Eating something. It's 32 degrees. I'm sure her feet are cold. She's got her thumb out for a ride. Oh, I hate seeing that. I hate seeing that because you want to help people, you know? At least I do anyway. But anyway, just amazing to me all the stuff that went wrong with that plane collision that could have been avoided with common sense. You know, that military helicopter obviously was lax in the rules, because the rules state to be 200 feet or lower. And they violated that, and I'm sure he's not the only one that has done that. It's probably become normal practice because somebody's not doing their job. Who is that person? If it turns out to be a DEI hire, well, I think Pete Hegseth, who announced that he's coming into the Pentagon to get rid of that, will definitely jump on that very quickly and make sure it's in the press. Where previously the military would try to hide that. So the Trump administration wants to have transparency. They want people to trust the government and the military again. So that only comes through transparency. Reveal when they do well and reveal when they do bad. That forces people to be held to accountability, and people do better. They do a better job. That is the purpose of having transparency. And at the end of the day, it's our money that's funding this. So the people in America want to know what's going on. I want to know if, like the new press secretary said, why we are sending $50 million worth of condoms to Hamas, who turned out to use the condoms to make part of what they use to make explosive bombs. So this is the sort of thing that we were not told, that was just revealed this week in a press conference. It's stupidly embarrassing, ridiculous, and should not have happened. What would be the humanitarian purpose of sending $50 million worth of condoms to Hamas, other than you're washing money for somebody? It's a bribe to somebody that's in Hamas, maybe so they'll do something the US wants them to do. I don't know. We don't know the full story, but it seems to me pretty fishy and unusual that you would be sending condoms to Hamas, who absolutely hate everything about the left. And you could even say, you know, why would they do that? Are they trying to get Palestinians not to reproduce, given how many people have been killed? I mean, what are they doing? They're going to need to make babies. So this is all crazy, crazy stuff going on that needs to go away. The Trump administration is going to fix this. And people knew this is what they were doing. That's why we voted for them. So we'll just have to cheer them on, folks. As I try not to get hit. Picked a route that would have been friendly to walk in, with no sidewalks, but I still have to be careful. As you can see, we got clouds coming in, and we're going to have some bad weather tonight. We get about 3 inches of snow, which often turns into 5. I don't know how many times I've said 1 inch to 2 inches, and we get 4. So we'll see what happens. Howdy. How you doing?
Good. Didn't freeze today.
No. Supposed to get 3 inches tonight though, and it's going to be damn cold for the next couple days, but it'll warm up again. So as you can see, most people generally are friendly. So I am absolutely drenched with sweat, if you're wondering. It may look cold for you walking, and it is kind of chilly. It's 32 degrees. 33 or 34 it looks like, because we see wet here, but there's also road salt here, which changes the freezing temperature to about 20 to 21 degrees from 32, which is the purpose of it. Make it safer to drive in. So anyway, I was looking at some old photographs in Maine from winters in the 1950s, 40s, and there's freaking snow piled several feet high after a storm, you know? And we just don't get that anymore. I've never experienced that in my lifetime, and I'm 56. So way back when, there used to be a lot more snow, and the weather used to be worse. And if you research it online, that's the case. Case in point, I talked about it a little bit on the last walk, but down in Louisiana, there was 10 or 11 inches of snow, and everybody's freaking out. Climate change, climate change. No, it did that in the 1800s also. You know, arguably before the Industrial Revolution or during it. And so no, it's not climate change, it's just climate. From one year to the next is different. It's always been that way. It's always going to be. You know, next winter it might very well have literal feet and yards of snow deep. You know, I remember a couple winters from when I was a kid, we would have several snowstorms with 6, 8, 10 inches, 12 inches. Remember one time in May, when I was probably 15 or 16 years old, we had 2.5 feet of snow in May. Very rare, but it happens. Might have been April. I think it was mid-April. Regardless, we hardly ever get snow here in April. And in fact, we had 2 snowstorms last year at the end of March into April. One of them was 18 inches of snow. First week of April. So, you know, those things happen. Climate change should be based on consistency. Take a 10, 15, even a 20-year window and see how much things have changed, and if that goes against what would normally happen. So, Earth temperatures have gone up slightly. Not enough to be alarmed about, in my opinion. And there has not been sufficient proof to me of what caused it. Well, look at this. Pretty obvious what happened here. Since we have plastic car parts, all right. Well, it looks to me like we had an accident here. They put in a new pole. It looks pretty apparent to me that somebody drove into the pole that was here. That's what it looks like. I see some car grill parts mixed in there. So somebody did something stupid, maybe while texting, and they took out a pole. So we got a brand new pole they had to put up, And I'm wondering if that's why my power went out briefly earlier. Maybe they had to cut the power to do that. Well, we'll continue on here. So there you have it. That's what I was talking about. Whenever you go for a walk, you always see different things that happen. Right? So I had to change the battery. Looks like they're still working on the church. We just hit 5 miles. Definitely smells like snow is coming. It's hard to describe to you online if you're not experiencing snow and winter weather, but the sky has a look and feel because of the low cloud cover, as well as it has that smell that I can't really describe, but it smells like snow is coming. The air has a fresh, clean kind of smell. I don't know what causes that. Probably fresh and clean air. But I can tell you this, one of the benefits we do get from Maine, we have very clean air here. And we also have clean water. Didn't always used to be that way. It's about the only good thing Democrats have done to Maine. Now they over-regulate everything they did. But we used to have a river here that was dead. It would not sustain life. There was no oxygen. It was polluted and contaminated by paper mills upstream. And there used to be cakes of sludge on the river. It smelled terrible. I mean, it smelled bad. So, and of course, even where we are now, 4 or 5 miles from the river, we could smell it here. And it was even worse on winter mornings. So a lot of that is all cleaned up now. It used to be a joke when we were kids that, you know, I fell into the Androscoggin River and I came out dry. I came out dirty instead of wet. That was the joke. So everybody knew it had to be cleaned. I want to go get a shot of these garage doors. Somebody did some artwork on it. I like that. Old Americana, look at this. Somebody did some artwork on this garage. I think that's going to be my thumbnail for this video. What do you think? Take a still from that. Good old 57 Chevy. An old Indian motorcycle or a Harley, probably an Indian. That's pretty cool. I like that. I'll come up a little closer to make sure I get a good thumbnail for the channel. That's all right. All right. Well, we have gone over 5 miles now. I don't know if this auto sales place here is still open, but this is the first time in a long time they don't have cars in their lot. I got a few over there, pickup trucks, but I don't see all the cars they had. So the other thing too, that that just reminded me of that, maybe that's what we're looking at, is a used car shortage, where used car prices are going to go up again because people are not buying new cars because of interest rates, for one thing, because of Biden and inflation, inflationary spending by the government mainly. So hopefully DOGE, D-O-G-E, Department of Government Efficiency with Elon Musk, can root and ferret out all this wasteful spending so we can try to get inflation down. Very unusual to see that used car lot there with no cars in it. So either they sold the cars they had because there's a shortage, or because people aren't buying new, which I think end up reflecting nationally in new car sales. So maybe that's a new surprise we're going to get. But I'm just telling you what I observe on my walks. I've walked by that dealership many, many times over the last 3-4 years. They have always had a lot full of cars. So I don't see any going out of business signs, but they may have another location I don't know about, and they may have transferred these vehicles over there. Maybe they moved to a new location. They're in the process. Don't know. I'm just reporting what I see, folks. So we got about another mile left to the walk, on camera anyway, maybe less. I always walk further than what I record. I just wanted to get out and get a walk in today, which I did. One of the reasons being is I have gained between 5 and 7 pounds. So I've been probably on 6 or 7 walks since mid-December, okay, because of winter this year. So that's basically taking, let's see, 4. That's like taking over a month off of not walking at all. And I don't eat junk food. I do love eating rice, and I like my trail mix. Now, trail mix, in fairness, is pretty high in calorie. Even though it's raisins, nuts, and a lot of times you'll have Reese's peanut butter, Reese's Pieces in it, M&Ms, dark chocolate, white chocolate, mixed in with almonds and nuts, and it's meant to be eaten while you're doing exercise, you know. So for energy. So I have gained between 5 and 7 pounds since mid-December. I did weigh myself yesterday. So, and you know, that's not a big deal because I have already lost a lot of weight. It's really not much. Perfect example is you get up in the morning, you're a certain weight. When you go to bed at night, you're 5 pounds heavier. That's just from food you ate during the day, water. So 5 pounds really isn't anything to be alarmed about. And I am still where a few years ago I would have killed to be at. But I'll be out walking again, so I'm just gonna get through the rest of winter. And of course, some people gain weight slower than other people. Everybody's metabolism's different. Apparently I gain weight very easily. So, but daily exercise is really important. I walked recently and I walked again today. We're going to have snow tonight. It's going to be cold tomorrow. The weather Sunday is going to be a little warmer briefly. And then we're going to have a couple of cold days again. And then it's going to warm up a day or two, be cold for a day or two, warm up again. So right now the weather doesn't know what it wants to do here yet, which tells me from experience that if it's warm one day, cold the next, typically you end up getting bad weather associated with it, or sloppy weather, I should say. So we'll see what happens. There's the Thorncraig Woods. We should probably do a walk in there at some point soon. I think that would be good. Haven't been in there for a few weeks. That would be on my Woods Walk Gun Talk playlist on the profile. Well, it's definitely above 32 degrees because this is all melted on the sidewalk. There's no salt on the sidewalk. Well, a little bit from whatever they plowed. I shouldn't say that. But over here it's wet, where there isn't salt. Somebody had left a message asking me on this stretch that I'm walking on, where the sidewalks are so clean, asking me if the city had some kind of special thing they did to make it do this. Because the answer is no, not really. They have a machine that goes along that scrapes maybe a quarter inch above the ground, and it throws the snow out of a chute, and then the sun comes out during the day, absorbed by the sidewalk, and it melts the rest of it. That's all that is. So they don't put salt on the sidewalks. They salt the road, which you can see the white film on the road. But it's interesting, some of the questions I get from people not used to snow and how it's cleaned up. So, you know, and that's what's fun about this. So when you have questions like that, just ask me those questions. No question is dumb. I'm sure there's a lot of things down south. I have no understanding why they do things the way they do. But there's obviously a reason why they do things. These are new sidewalks too, by the way. These used to be frost heaved. A frost heave is when the ground freezes and rises and lowers, it cracks the sidewalk, and you end up getting humps. And when you walk at night and there's no street lights, it feels like you're stepping in a hole and you stumble. So we got brand new sidewalks here, which is nice. So we'll be coming up on 6 miles shortly. And so if you're wondering what a 6-mile walk is, you just saw it, if you're new to the channel. And hope I didn't bore you too much with politics, but when you get to be over a certain age, politics becomes very important to you, because everything affects you. Which, by the way, I'll take the last part of this walk to talk about the state of Maine here. The Democrats want to do a red flag law in Maine. That's their prize they want this year. And it looks like they're going to have a very difficult time passing that Because I stated on the last walk, Democrats control the legislature here, the lower and upper chamber, and they also have the governorship. But Maine is a purple state. Many people in the country think it's a crazy blue state like Massachusetts. It's not. It's a purple state. That means there are Democrats from red districts who are not the crazy liberal progressive Democrats. They're moderates, like Congressman Jared Golden, that the Democratic Party has been praising because he won his re-election in a tough re-election year for Democrats, because he didn't support all the woke stupidity. He supports just enough woke stupidity to make some Democrats happy and irritate the Republican voters who don't vote for him. But enough of the Republicans vote for him and the independents. So that's what Maine is. Anyway, they want to do a red flag law. They lost a lot of power in Augusta, Maine, here in the Capitol. They lost seats in the lower chamber and the upper chamber in the Senate. And Janet Mills is not very popular right now because she's raising taxes again. If you're not familiar, Maine is in the top 3 overtaxed per capita for citizens in the country, along with New York and California. So this is a problem for Democrats here, because we're not going to roll over and take it like many in New York and California do. And she knows that. And I know she knows that because she did her State of the State address the other night, and she blamed social media rhetoric for trying to derail what she wants to do with misinformation, she said. Well, it's not misinformation that you raise taxes and people have less money. It's not. It's not misinformation that you had an $8 billion budget yearly, annual budget, that has ballooned into $11.5 billion now in just the last 3 years. So that has to be paid for. You took in hundreds and thousands of illegals here, and we're paying for that. Paying for hotels, we're paying for food, we're paying for everything. While Mainers get their taxes jacked, and they're not happy, rightfully. And I'm predicting that the next election, Democrats are going to lose even more seats here, and eventually they're going to fall out of power. Just like we're going to see nationally, or have seen nationally, because the Republicans gained in all 50 states. The media can try to bullshit their voters all they want to and say it's not a problem, but anybody with a computer can go look at it. Republicans gained nationally, even in deep blue states. Republicans gained seats in the state legislatures. That's just a fact. The Democratic Party has shit policies, and they're paying dearly for it. And that's why Pete Buttigieg removed his pronouns from his profile, as did AOC and many other Democrats as well. It is now officially politically toxic. And now you have a whole bunch of indoctrinated, very confused people that are going to be angry at their representatives for doing that, because the Democrats themselves promoted cancel culture and outrage when people don't follow those protocols. And now they are dropping it because they have to, and they're getting crap from their voters. But hey, that's their problem, not ours. We'll sit back and enjoy it with smiles on our faces because we had common sense and we didn't confuse people and lie to them only to be disappointed. So with that, it's going to be the end of this walk. Hope you enjoyed it. I am going to take the camera off just to say hello. Hi everybody. J.Beau here. I just wanted to thank you for walking with me. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation. And we will see you on the next walk. God bless you, everybody, you and your family, and stay out of trouble, stay safe, pray to God, and may God bless America and you and your family. See you on the next walk, friends. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.